We're back. Appreciate you hanging with us. It's Wednesday. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Mike Sealski coming up in about a half hour. All right. So, Tone, last year's NFC Championship game was played January 28th, 2023. Eagles win 31-7. Niners had gone into the game winning 7 straight. The Eagles went down and scored on their first drive. The key play in that first drive was a pass. It was 4th and 3. Nick Sirianni, staying aggressive as he always does, Jalen threw a pass to Devontae Smith. Devontae made a that would initially appear to be a spectacular catch to bring it in. As soon as the play ends, the Eagles hurry up to run tempo, and you're thinking, all right, they're just running tempo to try to catch the Niners off guard so they can't make a substitution. Did he really catch the ball? Either way, they get the snap off and it's not challenged. Go back and look at the replay. It was an incomplete pass. The play was missed, but Kyle Shanahan failed to challenge it, and that led to an Eagles scoring drive, which put them up 7-0. So this is another example. Again, not to harp too much on this, but so the penalties in the game, Tone, ended up favoring the Eagles just in terms of the number of penalties in the game. 49ers had 11 for 81. Eagles had 4 for 34. But here's the issue. This isn't as much a penalty thing as it is. This is where your coach needs to do a better job. This is where your people upstairs with their eyeballs on these kind of things need to do a better job. And shame on you for not challenging in a playoff game a big play like that. They hold the Eagles there. They get the ball back in great field position, and who knows what can happen. But
and it was the first
down to scoring. Yeah,
and it was the first half. Like, I mean, holding on to your timeouts in the first half is like asinine to me. Like, in the first half, that's where you get, that's where you get all your timeouts out the way. You know what I mean? Like that's when you should, that's where your greatest margin for error lies. So this need to hold on to the timeouts in the first half was kind of strange to me. So I agree with you. The fact of the matter is, your coach lacked self-awareness in that moment. He got tight. Instead of just throwing a challenge flag on a crucial down at that, he decided to play it safe, and it happened the way it happened. But again, that's not even where that game was won and lost.
No, we're just getting to it.
We're just getting into it.
We're scratching the surface here. Hey, by the way, Jake Elliott named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. It's the 3rd time this season he's earned that honor, and
as he should.
Yeah, when I say that is damn right. To that.
Do they do all pros for kickers too?
Yes.
You think he qualifies for an all pro? Well, so far,
yes. Yeah. If you look at his numbers, like 50 and above, 50 plus, his numbers are, and his kickoff numbers are really good in terms of touchbacks. Yeah. I mean, I think he's the guy in the NFC, and I think the AFC is Justin Tucker. Okay. So that leads to a touchdown for the Eagles. Okay. So it's 7-0 at that point. Now here's where everything flips. Niners get the ball. Okay. They're 6 plays into their drive, and they try to block Hassan Reddick with a backup tight end, and Reddick blows right past him. As Purdy's back attempting a throw, Reddick hits him here. The ball comes loose. He goes down. He's hurt. He tears the UCL in his elbow. Now, they didn't know that at the time. They actually tried to put him back in at some point.
Yeah, after Josh Johnson.
After Josh Johnson got concussed, they tried to put him back in and he couldn't throw. I mean, then they pulled him back out. But so that to me, that was the turning point of this entire game. Purdy goes down. The balloon got, pinned and popped, and a lot of the air came out of the 49ers in that game. And this is really where the sniveling starts from them. It was a lot of if he had stayed healthy. The crux of this thing is do a better job blocking Hassan Reddick, and your quarterback's still in the game and he's not hurt. Don't even try and block him with a backup tight end. It's almost insulting. So you get what you deserve, plain and simple.
Listen, when you lack preparation, you cannot be surprised by the result. And in that moment, they didn't prepare themselves properly. Like you said, Hassan Reddick was on a tear throughout the regular season, the postseason. He had 20.5 sacks If you include the playoffs on the season, 16 and a half, I believe, on the regular season. He was a man on a mission. I think he had 2 sacks in the Giants game.
Right.
So you at this point, you got to keep an eye on him. The fact that you thought you can block him with a backup tight end tells me you didn't take his pedigree serious, and also you weren't prepared for him in any way. You didn't account for him in the game plan. It shows a lack of respect for the opponent. When certain guys come to town, you say to yourselves in those meetings, I would imagine, okay, watch him. We got to keep an eye on him. But, Kyle Shanahan, he's smug, and so are the 49ers, and they got what they got. So why should we feel bad? It wasn't like he slipped. It wasn't like he slipped on a banana peel and fell, or he caught a cold,
Yeah,
or it was a non-contact injury, or maybe or it wasn't like he threw his arm out of the socket. No, that wasn't what happened.
I agree.
Haason Reddick came in and laid it down on him. And it's pretty
football. It's a football play. It wasn't a dirty play. It wasn't what we were talking about with Jordan Phillips earlier. It's a clean play. It's a football play, and he gets hurt. And then third quarter, Josh Johnson comes in, and Ndamukong Suh buries him, and he gets concussed. It's a shame. I don't root for injuries. I don't like to see people get hurt, but that's football. And nobody's going to feel sorry for the Eagles that Zach Cunningham can't play this week against the Niners. No one. Exactly. No one's going to feel bad if Lane Johnson, isn't himself. Nobody's going to feel bad if Fletcher Cox can't go. That's football. So the notion of complaining and the what-ifing is so weak. So weak. But anyway.
If the tables will turn, right? If let's say Jalen Hurts tore his UCL in that game. Let's say everything equal. Everything happened exactly the same way, right? Nick Bosa came around. The Eagles tried to block him with Jack Stoll. And all of a sudden, boom, out for the game with UCL. Then you send in the backup and Gardner Minshew, boom, Eric Armstead takes him out. Would we still have the same energy?
Like I get as a fan saying, damn, I would have liked to have seen what that would have looked like with my.
And that's a reasonable take,
totally
but believe it there.
Yeah.
Don't you dare go past that line and say, well, if he would have been in, we would have beat you guys. That's not how life works.
It's would have instead of could have. You know what I mean? There's a big difference there. And for the players to sort of carry this, baton of like, we would have beaten them. Dude, first of all, you have no idea if that would have
something was stolen from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're already staking claim to something that you haven't earned. That's a problem.
It's weird.
That's a problem to me.
I said this to you when it was going down, and you and we were Gunner, and we were all talking about it. I'm like, if I'm John Lynch, I'm telling Shanahan and I'm telling the players, that's it. I don't want to hear any more of this, guys. Like, stop. However you feel, keep it to yourself. But we got to stop doing this because it's not a good look, really for any of us. And that's really what I wonder about is their mindset going to be so hyped to just, we got to take the Eagles out, man. We got robbed last year, whatever their feelings are, however they're in their feelings, versus what they have to do to execute on the field. I wonder about that.
You know what they told us, right? And I buy into this completely, right?
Yeah.
The whole Super Bowl rematch thing, it's not a rematch because at the end of the day, you're not going to win the Super Bowl by beating the Chiefs in the season. That's not how that works.
Yep.
So you're not avenging anything. You have to focus on the task at hand. And the Philadelphia Eagles almost got caught in that game, but they stayed diligent. They kept the main thing, and they won that game. It's another notch on the belt, and you move on. I don't trust the 49ers to be able to have that mental fortitude to be able to delineate what happened then and what's going on now.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles almost fell into the same trap. But all season, Jason Kelce nipped in the bud. He said, this isn't a Super Bowl rematch. It doesn't change anything. And the 49ers believe they can change something with this game on Sunday. They firmly believe that. Their fan base believes that. Their staff believes that. Their players believe that. And I want them to keep believing that because that's how you lose football games.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. All right. Speaking of the Jake Elliott thing, longest field goal made in week 12 and tied the third most 50-plus yard field goals made. He's got 6 already. 6 from 50-plus this year.
And he's still relatively young.
Damn. Yeah. His rookie year was 17.
Yeah. Let me see how old he is.
I'm going to guess he can't be more than 28 or 29.
Let's see. Jake Elliott's age. Jake Elliott is 28 years old.
That's a
28.
great sign for the Eagles.
That's a
There's
great.
a lot of years left.
Yep.
With this
Yeah,
guy.
and kickers last long in this league. He has a minimum of another 8 strong years in this league.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great sign. And he's another one. Like, I'm not, obviously his job's a little bit different than Jalen, but he welcomes the big moments. That guy. And there's a lot of scared kickers. He ain't one of them. So that's really good. Anyway, so a couple other things from the game. Mentioned the penalty situation. 11 of those penalties led to 7 first downs for the Eagles from San Fran. The Eagles led 21-7 at the half. They were 4 for 6 in the red zone. The Niners never even got in the red zone. Their only score, I mean, it was an incredible play. McCaffrey broke about 3 tackles on the play and whatever, but they never even got into the red zone in the game. And if you look at Jalen's numbers, they look very pedestrian, but he didn't have to do anything. Like, once you got that lead, the Eagles smartly went into running mode. It allowed Jalen to further heal up that shoulder and not take any risk. You remember, he was still banged up at that point. Then you got the bye week leading into the Super Bowl, and he looked, obviously a lot better. But he went 15 for 25, 121 yards in the game. The Eagles rushed for 148 in the game. So the smartly, it was all about just pounding the Niners and working clock and kind of keeping everybody healthy in that game. But it was a non-competitive game from the moment really Purdy went down. It was not competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. That game, it was exciting to watch because, again, some people say, well, how can you really gauge how good they were in that game when they didn't have to go up against any of the quarterbacks? And I understand the logic behind it. But the reality is they didn't play with their food in that game. And they looked at the 49ers as just another stepping stone going forward. Like, some argue even that because the playoff run was so smooth for them, it kind of didn't really prepare them for that Super Bowl. Because again, the Eagles didn't go up against any top tier quarterbacks throughout that season last year. The best quarterback they went up against was Aaron Rodgers, and he ended up not even finishing that game. So, I think what the Eagles are experiencing this year, even not even in the playoffs, it's going to set them up perfectly for when they're in that situation again.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And you look at it, and obviously there's a couple things. Like, what's different about these two teams going into the game? There's a bunch of things. For starters, Javon Hargrave is a 49er now. Javon Hargrave
that's hilarious.
Right, it's crazy. He's got 6 sacks for them. He's the second leading sack man behind Bosa. We know how good he is against the pass. I'm wondering, the Eagles know that he isn't very good against the run and not really interested in the run. Are you going to pound it up the middle? Are you going to work the guards and Kelsey trying to free some stuff up in the middle? That's going to be interesting, to see what the approach is there from an interior defensive line standpoint with the Eagles, how they attack that. But beyond that, there's a bunch of other things that have changed. There's no more Miles Sanders. It's DeAndre Swift from an Eagles standpoint. There's no Isaac Seumalo. You've moved Juergens into that spot. You're not going to have Goddard. Goddard had a pretty decent game. Unfortunately, he's not available, or it doesn't look like. I shouldn't say that. He's not 100% out, but it looks like it's more leaning towards the Dallas.
Yeah, he'll be back in the Dallas game. I think that's more so realistic.
Yeah. So there is some differences from that standpoint. As far as the Niners go, they're obviously they're going to have Purdy going into the game who was injured. They've lost Hufanga, who was one of the better safeties in the league. They're loaded. I mean, look, this team across the board is excellent.
They added Chase Young as well.
They added Chase Young. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you're going to have to, I feel like we say this every week, and I know, and it's almost goes without saying, but when you're playing a team this good, you're going to have to bring your A game. And the Eagles can ill afford to not, like, would you agree they have to play their best game of the season to win this?
Yeah.
The best that they've played this year is what I mean.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, look, here's the thing. It's the conundrum I face about the 49ers. I love the way they're built. I love I love how great they are on both sides of the ball. They're really a great team. I just can't stand the mentality surrounding them. I can't stand the culture.
Yeah, you have to almost separate both, right? I mean, there's a piece of you that's like, I hate the way they go about their business, but if I'm being real here, I have to acknowledge how good this team is.
I love the way they're built. I love the way they're built. And this is me showing real respect to the opponent, right? Yeah. Some other fan bases are incapable of doing that, like the 49ers. They're incapable of showing real respect to the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's okay. It's whatever. But you know, I'm an adult, so I know how to differentiate, you know, my fandom from just, you know, the fact of the matter, and that is the 49ers are arguably the best team in the NFC. Arguably, some people say yes, some people say nay. It's okay. It's all right. You know, there's no wrong answer between the Eagles and the 49ers. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there's a wrong answer, because any given Sunday is any given Sunday.
Yeah.
I respect the opponent. I respect their skill sets. Debo, Brendan Ayuk, George Kittle, CMC. That's tough sledding for any defense. You know, so the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have their hands full, especially when the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the worst teams on third down, in particular in third and long situations.
Yep.
Like, that's a huge issue. Pass defense has been a huge issue. You know, so the Eagles are going to have to bring their A game on both sides of the ball. The great thing about football is, regardless of what the numbers say, you still got to lace them up and strap them up. And anything can happen in those games. Anything can happen on those drives. A drop pass here, or a guy, or you're not accounting for a guy stepping up in a big moment. Like, and that's where the Philadelphia Eagles excel at, right? They excel at the moments. They excel at the crossroads. You know what I mean? In life, you always come across in life, you always find yourself at a crossroads, or you always find yourself at a fork in the road. And the Philadelphia Eagles always do a great job at making the right decision. They always they always end up taking the right path. It's a tricky proposition, and you're constantly living on the edge in those, you know, in that regard. But the Philadelphia Eagles thrive in those moments that can literally differentiate you between a win and a loss. They thrive in those moments. I don't think the Niners have been in too many situations where they've had to really thrive in those particular moments. And even when they haven't been successful. So, again, from a talent perspective, the 49ers and the Eagles, man, it's a pick 'em. But I think the Eagles have the edge mentally, which is going to push them over the top. But again, much respect to the way the Niners are built, man. I love their roster.
Yeah, no, they're loaded. I mean, you're talking about McCaffrey. He's got 900 rushing yards. He's got 389 receiving. Ayuk's got 45 catches, 881, 5 touchdowns. Kittle 46, 667, 5 touchdowns. You know, Purdy's numbers are ridiculous. 2,800 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, only 6 picks. He's completing 70%. He's got a 112 passer rating. You know, Bosa 8 sacks, Hargrave 6 sacks. I mean, Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in the game. There isn't, you're not going to find weak spots across. I mean, this is going to be your A game against their A game. The good thing is it's here. And again, I think the Eagles are a little bit more battle tested. You look at the teams that San Fran, and not that they haven't played anybody. Certainly they've won some big games. They had that 3-week lull where they lost 3 straight, which was strange. They lost to Cleveland with PJ Walker. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Cincinnati. So they're the 3 games. They've beaten Pittsburgh, the Rams, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Cowboys. They smoked. They've beaten Jacksonville, Tampa, and Seattle. And, you know, something we haven't touched on yet, Tone, they're coming off, they'll be off 10 days rest. Their last game will have been Thanksgiving. So that's a big advantage. And the Eagles are coming off an overtime game. And that overtime game was off of a short week's rest. So the Eagles are the more tired team. That's a factor as well. Yeah,
it's an advantage physically. It's definitely an advantage physically from a recovery standpoint.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I like the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles kind of have this quick turnaround. It's keeping that engine running hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the 49ers, they've been lulling a little bit. You know, they've been relaxing and kicking their feet up and just biding their time until this matchup on Sunday. And, you know, recovery is a real thing. The team that has the deeper gas tank or the deeper gas reservoir, you know, they're going to have, you know, more energy in some of those moments. But man, the Philadelphia Eagles, they play beyond the measurable. They play beyond the physical manifestations. Like, you know, it's beyond that with them. It's you know, sometimes your body can play tricks on you, and so can your mind.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles are so in tune with their minds. I think that pushes them beyond just the physical.
I think it's also something that Nick Sirianni handles and the organization handles very well. They're very small. Like, I'd be surprised. I haven't seen yet what they're doing, but I'd be surprised if today wasn't just a walkthrough. I think they do an excellent job of knowing when to pull the reins back a little bit with this team, especially the veterans. And this may apply. I think this week it applies to the young guys too, like Davis and Carter. But I think it's, they're good at really getting guys like Kelsey and Lane, when they need it, the kind of rest that they need. So I think this is going to be a heavy install kind of week, but not, truly a grinded kind. Not that they ever do that anyway at this point of the season, but a lighter physical load for them on the field.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, they've been good. The Eagles have been good at that from the jump, and I know it drove everybody crazy that was the case with them, with the way they handle it in the preseason. But I think we've seen now that it's the way to go, and it's the way a lot of teams are going. Right?
Yeah, I don't think at this point we're going to criticize their offseason preparation anymore. You start the season off 10-1 in back-to-back seasons. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this amounts to just start faster, and you got to get off the field on third down. The defensive third downs are murder for this team. They're great offensively on third down, but they're the polar opposite defensively, which leads to a lot of different things, Tone. It keeps drives alive, which means the other team scores. It keeps the other team's offense on the field, which means your defense gets worn down. It keeps Jalen Hurts off the field, which is great for any opposing defense. Good. Let him sit. So that's the biggest thing that I think Sean Desai and his group have to work on. As much as we're focused on Brian Johnson, I get it. Everybody's losing their mind over Brian Johnson, which I think is I want to talk about that too. But real quick, Desai has got to do a better job there, and the defense has got to do a better job as best they can, because they don't necessarily have great personnel in the secondary to some degree. I think the Brian Johnson stuff is way overblown. I think people are jumping on this guy far too quickly. I know we talked about this a little bit on Monday, but I just think that there is some patience warranted here with him, and let's see how it goes as the season goes on. But I think we're quick to judge with him. And when I think if you look at the numbers, the Eagles are averaging 28.2 per game scored. Last year they averaged 28.1. The end game is they're getting there. However they're doing it, whether it's a second half or whatever, they're getting to where they need to be. It's just maybe not looking as pretty as it looked last year or it felt last year.
You're right. We did talk about this on Monday, but it's still a fascinating case study because, we look at this team and we question why they struggle so much out the gate. And, we know this is Nick Sirianni's game plan. Brian Johnson is just executing it or calling the plays, right? But then the moment they get away from the script, the moment when they have to be more creative and instinctual in the second half, the play calling becomes significantly more effective and efficient. Brian Johnson, rookie offensive coordinator, right? We give so much grace to rookie players.
Yes.
Right? We give so much grace to rookie quarterbacks. There are people saying, Bryce Young, we can't judge him based off this year. This is his first year. He has no offensive line. He has, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Even CJ Stroud, even though he's playing out of his mind, there's still a grace you give to a rookie in their first season.
Yeah.
No matter what position you play. We don't give the same thing to rookie coaches.
We don't.
There's little to no grace for guys that have never done the job before at that level.
Especially now, Tone, especially in this day and age.
Exactly. We know Brian Johnson's been an OC on the college level, but again, all these players, they've been on the college level as well. But can you prove it on the national scale, on the NFL level? And look, maybe this is me being overly rational, or maybe this is me. Some may say I'm being a homer or waving a flag, however you want to call it. But I guess I'm just trying to be realistic about the situation now. Because even in game, I'll be honest. There was a moment in the game, the Bills game, where I tweeted, and it's still up there, and I'm not going to delete it because that's how I felt in that moment. I literally said, you can scream all the stats you want. Brian Johnson is holding this team back, right? Yeah. And that was a visceral reaction out of me, an emotional reaction out of me, because when I'm in the game, I don't care about being a commentator. I'm a fan at that point.
I agree.
So I'm just tweeting my my emotions in that moment.
It's in the moment.
So but when I actually sit back and I really think about it rationally and take my Eagles colored glasses off, he's a rookie OC, learning on the go, and his team is 10-1. I can roll with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I have no choice but to roll with that.
All right, let's get a timeout. Let's come back. Mike Sealski is going to join us. We'll talk to Mike about any number of things, including his story today, but we'll talk a lot of birds with him. He made an interesting observation regarding Brock Purdy, which I want to talk to him about as well. So a lot to do when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Tone to Shields, Rob Ellis hanging with you on this Wednesday. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Yeah, I've been through it. I had water damage. I had water damage from an upstairs bathroom into my downstairs. It took out a ceiling and a wall and my carpet, and it was not fun. So I reached out to Pro Action Restoration. They fixed the problem. They're handling all of the construction that needs to be done. The contract work, the paint, the carpeting, the whole nine. And it's been a big, big, big relief. Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So it could be water like I had. It could be fire, smoke, mold damage, you name it. They can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.